Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be discussing a growing storm that'll be impacting much of the United States over the next several days, bringing the risk for even some severe weather, including damaging winds, large hail, and perhaps even a few tornadoes. I'll be giving you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, but let's begin with what's happening across the United States today. And we'll first start with the southeast United States, and this is an area that we have a huge storm actually happening on its own down here. Now, this won't be the storm that we're really going to be talking about much of in this forecast, but this one is going to be bringing some severe weather both today and tomorrow in the form of tornadoes. There will actually be a chance for a few tornadoes down in parts of Florida because of a disturbance in the Gulf of Mexico. If you remember from yesterday, we discussed the possibility of this becoming a tropical storm. It's not expected to become a tropical storm though anymore. It's expected to just bring a lot of convection to Florida for the next few days, bring that threat for severe weather, again with tornadoes and damaging winds being possible. We will talk about more on this later in this forecast, but one thing to point out is that there is some very deep convection right now moving in the direction of Florida. So if you're in Florida, be mindful. There will be a tornado risk both tonight and as well as throughout the day tomorrow. Two different threats to watch out for there. Now back up into parts of Canada, we do have that low pressure system still spinning just north of Michigan, not expected to bring any impacts to the United States, and this will be out of the United States over the next few days. Now back over in the Great Plains, this is an area that has more of a concern, I would say, for the next several days, and that is because we're going to be watching a trough eject over the Rocky Mountains. And we'll be watching that both tonight and tomorrow. This will be bringing the risk for severe weather, but another component that hasn't really been discussed a whole lot is the amount of rainfall it's going to bring, because this will be a pretty potent trough. It's going to be around 990 millibars, so again, that's a pretty strong trough, very low pressure for the central United States, and what this will do is bring the risk for severe weather. I'll show you those areas here in just a second, but that does include parts of the Midwest and as well as the Central Plains. Where the heaviest of the rainfall will be is on the northern side of this low pressure system, and that'll be primarily for those from Nebraska back into parts of the Midwest, and this is where we're watching for multiple inches of rain in some areas, so some very beneficial rainfall for some. Meanwhile, there will be a chance for some flooding, and we'll again discuss the possibilities on that here later in the forecast. Let's talk more about the weather pattern that will be impacting the United States for the next several days. And again, as of today, we have a low pressure system that is going to be ejecting over the Rocky Mountains over the next several hours. It'll become more reminiscent by tomorrow morning. And then back over in Canada, this is where another low pressure system is located, and again, our disturbance back down in parts of Florida. Now, as we go into Thursday into Friday, that trough will really intensify over parts of the Central Plains. This will be negatively tilted, so there will be a short-term tornado risk tomorrow across parts of the Central Plains, and this will be increased because of that low-level jet. That low-level rotation is going to be stronger. In addition to that, we have a strong southwesterly flow in the upper levels. This will start to kind of coordinate a potential for at least a few tornadoes across parts of the Central Plains. So that'll definitely be something to watch out for Thursday. Going into Friday, showers and storms will move into the Midwest. I'm not expecting nearly as much of a severe weather threat on Friday or Saturday, but there will be a chance for at least some isolated severe weather across parts of the Midwest and as well as maybe the Ohio Valley on both Friday and Saturday. As we go into Sunday into Monday, a big cool down is all coming behind this, so we'll see a big temperature drop across much of the United States. And eventually, as we go into Tuesday into Wednesday of next week, maybe another dip in the jet stream across parts of the southeast will probably keep a lot of areas in the southeast United States pretty cold overall as we go into next week. So this will be closer to Wednesday into Thursday. This cool down won't really be leaving anytime soon. It'll be below average temperatures for the most part for most of next week. By Thursday to Friday of next week, things become very uncertain. The jet stream goes crazy as of right now in the European model, but again, things are likely to change over the next several days. So again, we'll keep you posted with the latest details. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon down below so you're notified with the latest videos. All right, let's talk more about the severe weather potential for the next several days, and we'll begin with today, which is Wacky Weather Wednesday. A couple areas in particular, really not a whole lot of concern for the Midwest and as well as the Central Plains. This area here in particular, there's a marginal risk. Isolated large hail is possible this evening, but it's again not very concerning. Back down in parts of Florida, we are watching for an increased tornado risk tonight from that area that we're going to be watching for tonight. A tornado watch is likely by the time this video is up, or potentially a little bit after that. A main concern again will be a few tornadoes tonight, so have a tornado action plan in place just in case. And again, we'll talk about more details on the timing here in just a few minutes. Now, across parts of the Central Plains going into tomorrow for tossing trampolines on tall trees Thursday, we do have a slight risk of severe weather from Kansas City all the way back into parts of Nebraska. Also, another slight risk of severe weather back down in Florida. Florida. Now, down in Florida, again, we're watching for a few tornadoes tomorrow as well, so have that tornado action plan handy just in case for both today and as well as tomorrow. Now, across the Central Plains, we're going to be watching for a multitude of threats. We're going to be watching for damaging winds, large hail, and as well as a few tornadoes. Now, by the way, I don't know if multitude is a word, but I'm going to go with it. Basically, talking about multiple threats. Now, across parts of the Central Plains, again, we're going to be watching for all modes of severe weather. Main concern right now is damaging winds and as well as maybe a few tornadoes. Going into Flying Fences Friday, there is another marginal threat of severe weather. Again, this is where the severe weather threat will likely start to trend downward, meaning not nearly as much severe weather across parts of the Midwest, and eventually as we go into Saturday, that threat will probably move into the Ohio Valley. Damaging winds will be the main concern. We might see an isolated tornado, so keep that in the back of your head. Again, nothing too crazy, though. It will not be a widespread threat by any means. All right, going into tomorrow, things get a little bit interesting because we're going to have a cranking southerly flow in the lower levels. This will help to rotate supercells, and we're probably going to see at least a couple tornadoes across parts of southeast Nebraska and northeast Kansas due to a very strong low-level jet. That'll help to rotate supercells at the lower levels. Peak wind speeds on the HRR model are around 5 to 6 o'clock at around 60 to 65 knots. Now, again, this is a little bit off the surface, so we're not seeing those winds at the surface, but this will again help to rotate supercells, perhaps increasing that tornado risk. As we go into the afternoon tomorrow, we'll be watching for a band of storms to fire up around 3 to 4 o'clock across northern Kansas and southeast Nebraska. That is where that tornado risk will really start to ramp up. As we get closer to 5 to 6 o'clock, that's where I think the tornado risk will peak. As we go into the evening hours, storms move off to the east, and eventually after sunset, I think the severe weather threat will be way lower across parts of the Central Plains. However, there might still be some showers and storms left over with maybe a little bit of gusty winds. Now, going into the Midwest for Flying Fences Friday, again, it's not very concerning right now. We'll be watching for a lot of heavy rain. That's the biggest thing with this entire system, but there might be some isolated damaging winds, perhaps an isolated tornado risk that develops as we go throughout the day Friday. But again, it does not seem to be anything that out of the ordinary at this point. In terms of total rainfall across the Midwest and even parts of the northern plains or even central plains, we'll be watching for several inches of rain. Widespread 1 to 3 inches is expected. Isolated areas could see as much as 5 to 6 inches of rainfall when this is all said and done. For those in Florida, we'll be watching for storms throughout the evening tonight. Again, maybe some isolated tornadoes across parts of Florida, maybe some damaging winds as well. Overnight, there will still be a tornado risk, so have multiple ways to receive alerts. Going into Thursday morning, there will be some showers and storms still ongoing. Tornado risk might still exist with this through Thursday afternoon, but I do think damaging winds will be a bit more of a concern. And then eventually, as we go into Thursday evening and eventually into the overnight hours, storms will likely continue, but overall, the tornado risk will pretty much subside, I would say, by after sunset on Thursday. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.